Good afternoon, active members. This is Robin Bowman, and I'm here with you this afternoon to continue our conversation on the future of bidding from a recipient agent's perspective. So for those of you, I've got to go through the little parts here. For those of you that are not familiar with our organization, the American Commodities Distribution Association is a nonprofit professional trade association devoted to improving the USDA's food distribution program. ACDA is comprised of many stakeholders, all working together to strengthen and maintain the integrity of the USDA food supply chain. Our mission is to strengthen the impact of domestic USDA food programs, and our vision is working together to nourish the nation. I would like to point out the chat feature on the screen. If you want to use that, it would be great. We'll get to your questions. And then just a quick little note about me. I'm Robin Bowman. I'm the Vice President of K-12 for Court Food Service, and I've been in this industry not as long as our special guest, but quite a long time, probably 28 plus years. So before we go into our topic on recipient agencies and the future of bidding and what that looks like, I wanted to welcome Carrie Warnick to the call today. We had a lot of questions around the GDSN last 2 weeks ago on the call. And I went to Carol and I said, look, we really need to address some of these questions. I am not the expert on it and wouldn't dare try to answer questions. I was answering your questions and texting Carrie and calling Carrie. So today, for the first 15 minutes or so, Carrie is going to walk through what she knows, share her insights. And if there's any questions, she's going to stay on and look in the chat and help to answer these questions. But it's my honor and pleasure to introduce Carrie Warnick. And Carrie, you can introduce yourself and tell us what you do.
Okay, thank you, Robin and ACDA, for having me today. I appreciate the confidence. I would never call myself an expert because I think that's impossible in this industry, but I'm going to do my best today to break this down and unpack a lot of these acronyms and explain how these are key to the future of bidding and how it all ties together. I am the program coordinator for Multi-Region Purchasing Cooperative, which is in the state of Texas out of Region 10 Education Service Center. So a large co-op in the state of Texas. We have a lot of fun. But anyway, I want to get on with this. So first, I do want to unpack these acronyms because they are buzzwords and have been for a while. The past year to 2 years, we're hearing these, these words. I'm going to start at the bottom, foundation, what we all know, and build up to the top so we can kind of get a complete understanding of what all this means and how it's connected. So we all know a barcode, right? These are lines, hash marks. They get scanned by an optical scanner at the grocery store or a retailer that pulls up that product and the pricing, and you pay and you go forth. Underneath that barcode are a little series of numbers called a UPC. That is a universal product code. Now, that UPC is also called a G10, which is a global trade identification number, GTIN. So when you hear G10, think UPC. Now, those numbers are very specific and unique, and that's what's so great about them is that the first 6 to 9 numbers are basically a company prefix. So a licensed company wanting to sell their products and who acquires a G10 or a UPC, first set of numbers identifies the company. The second part of that long number, and it's typically 12 to 14 digits long total. So the second middle portion of that number, that G10, is the product code. So that is what the company comes up with as a product code. Numbers only, no letters in there. And then there's an end digit. It's called the check digit, and that is configured through some kind of a calculation between the company prefix and the product code, thus producing a 12 to 14 digit unique identifying number to that product. Now, there is a global organization that oversees all of this. GS1 is called Global Systems, and they are basically the governing body of all these G10s. And they utilize a network called the GDSN. Global Data Synchronization Network. This is where all the G10s are housed, and that allows manufacturers to sell their products either nationally or globally around the world. It is basically a massive standardized data pool. Now we want to talk streamlining, standardization, and centralize, all these terms that Robin was throwing at you in the beginning. So why, as a K-12 industry, have we not been tapping into a standardized data pool? Products that give you, if you're looking at the GDSN at a product, these are all the attributes on these products: pack sizes, nutritional facts, ingredients, literally the minutia details about a product, all the products in the same standard format, that as a co-op, when I look at it from that standpoint, helps me write a better bid specification. I don't know how many of you have spent hours digging for a nutritional fact sheet, some kind of a, description of the product, and not having any luck, or just throwing in the white towel and coming up with the best specification you could write based on the minimal information you had. Been there, done that, still doing that. And so if you were able to access that global network and find all those details, you're now writing a better bid specification, which is improving your solicitations and getting the responses that you want, right? We're going out for these products. We want to capture the products that we need and that we want. USDA moved to requiring the manufacturers providing the direct delivery foods this year to acquire that G10 and publish that to GDSN. So now those products are in the network. I thought that was a great step forward, and it was so timely when they announced that at ACDA this past April. So I was very excited to hear that, because I've been trying for years to get G10s into my bid catalogs. I'm a fairly advanced user of Excel spreadsheets, and I do a lot of VLOOKUP functions and all types of cross referencing, and often product codes are the same between two different vendors, and that can become very frustrating. And you have to really pay attention if you're importing pricing or importing other data into another spreadsheet. The G10 is going to be that unique number. There's not going to be a duplicate. So that helps clean up that process, especially for someone like me. It's also the ability to pull the most current and immediate data on any product, because if a manufacturer is going to update calories or a serving size or an ingredient, or now they've added a new allergen such as sesame seeds, that becomes immediately available in the network because they're updating their products that are published to the network. And if you are tied into that network through either a software company or utilizing, there are few software companies out there that are giving access, you get immediate data. You might even get a notification that something changed on a product that you've got in your menu system. So no more digging for all this information and finding it frustrating not finding it. The other thing is it could speed your evaluation process of a bid. So if you have required G10s from bid responders, which I started doing this past year with all of my renewal bids and my new bids, there's a form they have to fill out. They are required to provide us with a G10 and publish to the network. If you've got a bid response and you've had a recommended or equal, obviously language in your bid, and you've got a vendor that's offered up a supposedly comparable product, but now in the past you've been having to dig for, okay, is it truly comparable? Are you going to bring it in for a sampling? But if you've got the G10 and you can quickly access that network and pull those two products, your recommended, a vendor bid that, you've got an equal. Is it really equal? How often have you found through a lot of hours digging, it's not really an equal product? So it can really speed the process of that evaluation process, which is key because it seems like time is getting shorter these days, and we have a week to award a 4,500 item bid. Hopefully that's not your situation, but just saying. The other kind of cool thing is that, for vendors or manufacturers that are responding to your solicitations, well, if you've got recommended items and include the G10, but they can very quickly access that in the data pool, really, if you've got your specification, but they want to look at the product that you are recommending, that it might help them more quickly either bid that product, or if they've got something comparable, they're going to know right away, because now they're getting all the details about that product you're recommending that you probably didn't include every single detail about that product. Because we know specifications need to be open and fair in the way they're written, not too tight where only one, manufacturer can bid, but not so loose that you're capturing 100, possibly equal or whatever. So it can really kind of tighten and streamline that process for even the vendors on that side. Another really great attribute that I think there are a couple of companies out there now that are supporting the K-12 industry with some cross-platform data, meaning they're connecting the menu software companies with the GDSN attributes. So you can well imagine how many hours have you spent entering all those ingredients into your menu system, or you were sent 5 spreadsheets to fill out when you awarded a new menu system provider, and now you've got all these hours to get all this stuff into the system. What if you had that access to GDSN through a software, and you've got a list of products that you want to import into your menu system, and it's one click of a button, because there is this bridge now, a digital technological bridge that allows you to import the data right into your system. So you're not manually and taking the risk for more human error of entering it yourself. So I think that, that's going to improve your bidding as well, because your menu system has, tons of information that what you're using, your inventory, how much you've used. Now that can cross over into writing your bid. Well, what's the forecasting piece? Now it becomes help for the forecasting in your bidding situation. So lots of good things with the G10s being in your bids and utilizing some form of a software. And there is some software out there or websites that I know are free to access that connects the GDSN to K-12 products. Some you pay for. I think we're going to see a growth in this area. I can personally tell you that all the menu software providers are on board and are already working towards having this communicate with other software companies, connecting users with GDSN. And of course, one little just fun fact that I know is happening in 2027, the world is transitioning into no longer a barcode, but a quick response, or otherwise known as a QR code, which allows for digital scan of an image that is embedded with a link to that G10. So I know that's coming. So welcome to the new age, right? That's what I know.
Right. Now, that's a lot. Carrie, I
Right?
really appreciate you. And for those, everyone out there watching this, or if you know someone that has questions, put them in the chat. Carrie is going to exit the screen, and then, but she's monitoring the chat to answer any questions. I can't see questions. So if you have any, you can put them in the chat, and then we'll pick up and talk more about this later. But we're going to move on now with our 2 special guests, and we spent the first 15 minutes just, I'm so jealous. I'm so jealous. Okay. So we have Lonnie Burt, who is from Hartford County and who is retiring. I'm going to let you talk about yourself. And for those of you, Barbara Harrell, and I have worked with these ladies probably 20 years or more. And I'm honored that you ladies have taken the time to be on this call with us. So I'm going to let you go first, Barbara. Talk about yourself. Tell us what you do. Tell us when your last day is. And then Lonnie, you can do the same. Then I'll throw a question out at you.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for inviting us, Robin and ACDA. We really appreciate this opportunity to do our swan song on an ACDA platform. My name is Barbara Harrell, and I am the outgoing director for Montgomery County Public Schools, which is just outside Washington, D.C. We're a large district. We have 211 schools, about 161,000 students. And we're a little bit different because we do have our own central warehouse. We act as our own distributor for the most part. And we also have a pre-plate and cook-chill facility. It is with distinct pleasure that I share this platform with Lonnie Burt, We've worked together and presented over the years with ACTA, and ACTA has been a godsend in terms of networking and just great information over the years. So,
Lonnie.
Good afternoon, and really, truly, thank you, Robin. When I saw that it was Barbara, I said, I have to do this. It really is our swan song. It's crazy. My actual retirement date is September 8th, but I have accrued time. So I've got one more day in Hartford and I will be done, permanently done. So it's crazy. 38 years in child nutrition, and truly, we were all talking about what a blessing this career has been. And registered dietitians typically work with people who have already had poor eating habits and sick, and now you're trying to change them. But being a registered dietitian working in child nutrition, it just is the cherry on the top of the sundae. Like, it doesn't get any better. Talking to kids about how they should eat and having an impact on health it has been a blessing. So anyways, I am so grateful to be doing this with Barbara, because we have presented, and Robin, we have all worked together
Yes.
for many years together. And my one wish, as I've said to my staff, and my one wish is that this industry keeps moving, and that, when I was 25, becoming a director, looking at people who are my age now, thinking, I want to be like them. I love what they've done. I pray that the next generations look up and say, you know what, I love this industry, and that they will love it as much as we have. That's my biggest wish.
Well, I agree with you. I hope it goes that way. I really do. So, okay, I'm going to ask a question. We were talking about the future bidding, and I know both of you, I think you both had a bid this year, didn't you? If I'm not mistaken. Yeah. Okay. Tell me, Lonnie, how, after our conversation I just had with you, how the process of bidding has evolved for you. Let me just preface this with a conversation that I sat in this woman's office probably 14, 15 years ago, and she had a whiteboard and she had everything. I just remember being enamored with that. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, now where are we today? It's all on a TV screen, you said.
Now it's on a 70-inch TV screen, exactly. So that when I'm working with people in my office, we can all look at the same thing. Well, certainly, I have to admit, 38 years, we didn't bid in the very, very beginning of this industry. It wasn't even really, you just would who the vendor was. And really, Barbara, in the very beginning, you truly didn't bid. And then USDA realized people weren't bidding. Oh, my goodness. And it became a major priority. And so over the years, you've seen it get, and I've seen it get better and better. I really like, I really like what Carrie was saying, because I think that is the wave. Because what I haven't seen, and what I think really people need to do, is I haven't seen people understand every year your bidding process is a constant, and you need to be looking at it constantly, changing your forecasts. I hear, and I know, Robin, because I hear it from people like you. People are still putting bids out there with items that are no longer in production. So we have to come to a really organized, it has to be a something that you work on all year, not just for a week.
Yeah, no, I agree. Barb, what's your take on how it's changed?
So I think, as Lonnie said, in the old days, we would just call up whatever vendor we wanted to buy things from, and you would order what you needed and they would bring it, and you'd pay the bill. So I think we've come a long way, baby, let's face it. But I also think that we struggled for years with trying to keep up-to-date information. So you might have update information on the product that you were using, but all of the other products from all of the other manufacturers, you might not know. I'll say that the chicken nugget from XYZ company was no longer in production. The code number has changed, or the description had changed, all of these things. And so just trying to keep your bid specs up to date with comparables and things like that was so time consuming and still not necessarily correct. Plus, reaching out to how many different vendors for this information, again, time consuming, tedious, and not necessarily fruitful in terms of getting what you wanted on the bid.
Right. No, I agree totally. Technology's brought us a long ways. So I've watched it through the years. Now, you two And Barb, I know you're not in a bind or not in a buying group. You're rather large, so you are not. Lonnie, were you part of a buying group? No, I didn't think so. Okay, I was just making sure. So that's an entity that, you know, we would need to address with people who are parts of buying groups. So let's move on. Barbara, you were at ACTA this year, right? This past year, yeah. In one of the sessions we did that I did, we talked about modernization and centralization. And what does that look like? And boy, that were you in the room then? There was so
No.
many people in the room and so many inputs and, you know, state USDA people and lawyers. And I was like, whoa, you know, I'm running all over the room trying to keep up with all the comments. What does that look like for you? What would be the benefit of a centralization template? Like for the first 12 pages of your bid, it's all right here on the spot.
So I think, so, and Lonnie's probably in the same situation I am. So we are in, so every state is its own little kingdom.
Yep.
And then every school district or LEA is often its own little kingdom. And so all of these ruling kingdoms have their regulations, which may be stricter than the federal guidelines, may or may not be, but they may be slightly different. So most of us, we would love to see that standardization of the first 12 pages. I think it would take a massive amount of collaboration between USDA, not only USDA, but, you know, the Public Buyers Association, you know, school business officials. We would have to get them to work on this with us, because I can want to use a centralized template as much as I want. But if my procurement unit is not going to go for that and they are not going to approve that, then it doesn't matter. I think the input of, I'll jump ahead slightly. I think the use of the GDSN and the G10s will be massive for us, huge. If we can just put a G10 in there and say as comparable without having to then go and look for all these products, or we can, you know, at a flip of a switch, just say, is this truly comparable? Is this truly, you know, similar sodium or whole grain, or the ingredients, or allergen free? Does it meet our specs? That'll be huge for us. That will be a major step forward for all of our districts.
Lonnie, what is your take here?
My take is exactly. First of all, I'm in New England. You know, New England has, every town has their own opinion. It's a whole different we don't even have counties. Do you understand what I'm saying to you? Like, it's not like Broward County in Florida. Like, it's New England. So I'm much more concerned with standardizing processes. And I like the G10, because I think it's about, we need to get people doing bids in the same fashion. It's not the scope of services. I don't believe it's the scope of services and what Hartford, Connecticut needs for delivery processes, because I'm packing some things. I've got central warehousing like Barbara does, but other districts don't. I don't think it's the scope of services. I really don't. I really think it's about what is the standard operating procedure for bidding. And I'm going to come back to, because I don't think people are there. And I go around I am the person in my state that's yakking about this all the time. And I know you know that. I think it's important. And I think one of the things that's frustrating for you on your end, and which is one of the cogs in the wheel, is we as an industry and we as RAs are not having some standard operating procedure. Everybody does it in their own fashion. And I really think, again, it's not about what my delivery needs, because my city is not going to put up with you telling them what the language needs to be in these bid specifications. I can tell you that with clarity. They are not going to listen to your, they're not going to listen to what your legalese are. They don't care. But what I think is, how are we standardizing? So when I say to Barbara, I've evaluated this, and I evaluated it with this kind of percentages, or these are the criteria, I think we have to, I'm just going to say this out loud. I don't think we're at some, I don't believe that the majority of people who are out there bidding are at some high level. I think we have to get this down to some real simple ways and really help people to embrace and figure out what makes sense. And if we all start doing it the same way, it will make it easier for you, and it will make it absolutely more consistent for us.
Oh yeah,
So
there's no.
I believe that. I don't believe you putting a bid out for me is going to help me, because I can guarantee you that if I took my bid specifications and I looked at what Barbara's were, they're not the same.
No,
What I'm looking for in Connecticut and what my students want are not what her students in the DC area. I'm in an urban district with a very different population than what she's servicing. I can guarantee you that. And that's great. And I love every bit of that. But my needs are different than her needs.
Yeah, no, I get it. I see so many bids. It's unbelievable. So what kind of educational needs do we need to be looking at, Lonnie? You're getting ready to exit. So what I'm so jealous. She's doing a happy dance. What kind of educational needs are we looking at moving forward? Do we need to have some, talk to me. What are you thinking?
I think, well, first of all, again, each state. So I think some of the procurement reviews are going to give us some of those educational needs, but I think it really gets into, forecasting and really getting down to some really basics. Again, what are you using for a rating criteria and making sure that they're following the right, really some basics. But I think it's about, maybe it's Excel. I mean, like, again, Carrie, I couldn't function without Excel. I'm not at that level of like doing what she's doing, but I can tell you this with clarity, I can't function without it. So I think and the next generation is certainly far more computer savvy than I'm ever going to be, without any doubt. Right. And so I think it's about, I don't know. I think it's really getting back to what is the bidding process, right? And let's be clear. It's about making sure we're meeting the USDA regulations. I mean, that's what we're doing here. I need to make sure that we don't ever lose sight of why are we bidding? It's to get the best price and to meet the USDA regulations.
Exactly.
And so making sure that we are in compliance with that.
Exactly. Barbara, what are your take?
So we had one manufacturer this year that has decided not to do any bids. They're not going to respond to bids, they told us. They're going to publish their price list. They'll have a direct price or a price through a distributor, and we're welcome to go on their website and pull their nutritionals. And, in talking to our procurement unit and also to our state, we were told, you can't do that. You're spending way too much money. You have to put out a competitive bid. And this manufacturer just did not. It was like I was speaking, another language, and they were still speaking English. And so part of my concern going forward from the manufacturer side is that completing bids, especially, is so time consuming for them that I see that as an issue for us, that they may or may not be willing to commit the staff and time to that. But I also see, as Lonnie said, we have so many small districts who are very, very small. The director in these smaller districts, Lonnie and I are both registered dietitians. We've got lots of education and experience behind us, and we still at times struggle with our bids and whether they are exactly as we want. So I think, however we can assist our smaller siblings, if you will, and help them with this, I think would be of benefit. I think Excel training, even sometimes some of the commodity planners, I think some of the small districts struggle with because they're just overwhelmed by the amount of information that's in the commodity planner.
No, I get that.
I need to butt in and say to you, as I'm processing what you're saying, Barbara, it's true. You know what? What we really need to focus on is all of this comes from a cycle menu. So let me bring this back to a whole nother step and make sure we're all really on the same page, because you don't need an Excel spreadsheet unless you know what you actually need to order. Okay. And so the reality is, let's go through what we need to make sure people understand is, what is that menu cycle to get you to the bidding process? Is that not the truth of what we're saying? And so and again, I am literally retiring, but for 38 years, I have spent and done this. We are about to start the 23-24 school year. Okay. Our September and our October menu is done. Okay. The orders have been placed. We are like in that process. All right. But I can say this to you, in the beginning of September, by the end of September, conversation is going to be started with, is this cycle menu good for the 24-25 school year? What do we need to do? What's lacking? What do we need to develop? What are we doing? Because in October in Connecticut, that's when the food show is going to start. And you're going to start talking to me, Robin, about the products that you represent. Okay.
Right.
But I've already done this bidding cycle for the 23-24 school year. So all the conversation I'm having with you is really not about this year. Okay.
Right.
I need people to really understand that the reality of the whole bidding process is about a year and a half out. And when people complain about USDA, first of all, I'm a huge fan of it. I'm a
Mhm.
huge fan of the biggest change I've seen, Barbara, over all these years is the improvement and the whole growth of the USDA foods program is beyond words. What I have seen in
Fabulous.
my career, beyond words, how fabulous it is. Okay, so I cannot say that enough to you. Those guys are bidding and looking at 2.5, 3 years out to make sure a farmer is growing or livestock or whatever that is. So let me bring us back to us. Okay, I'm in September and I'm starting to look at this cycle menu and say what's missing, what's happening. Because in October, when I go to that food show, I need my staff, my supervisors, and my menu planners with a list. Where are we lacking? I'm looking for some breakfast items. I don't need another chicken item. I need something that's culturally diverse. I don't need another, I need something that's Jamaican. Whatever that is. Okay.
Right.
You need to go to those shows with an open mind, not just walking around randomly. And when we leave for that Christmas break, that menu needs to be pretty much tightened to bones, because when we get back from Christmas in January, we are finalizing these bid documents, and the bid documents are specific to my menu. So I would say to you, Carrie.
Yeah, I have a question for you, since we're talking about your bids, are you doing a single year or multi-year, and are you using categories now that you're talking about your whole cycle?
I'm
menu
using
and
absolutely categories, and my bid document, and I'm sure Robin has seen it. It's an Excel spreadsheet that has tabs by categories: crackers, cookies, snack,
Right.
It's absolutely categorized out. I'm doing one bid that has our USDA processed food items and my NOI and my commercial all on one bid. I can't handle more than one. Plus, I want a commercial. I can barely handle that, but I want a commercial price in case I don't have enough pounds. I'm not doing two different, that's too much. Okay. So know your plan, but my entire bid is absolutely tied into my cycle menu. And that's that is absolutely so that in January, because I got to put those pounds in March. Okay, so it's a process, and I think you have to go back step. And so to the younger ones, or to the ones who are in small districts, because this is where I see the people struggle, who think you're writing next month's menu today. Like you can't. If you make one change, and I can teach you to do anything on this Facebook live feed, would be you need a cycle menu, because you cannot plan, and you will not have the time to do this efficiently if you don't.
Wow. Well stated, well stated. So last Facebook Live, this was kind of a interesting topic, and we spent a lot of time on it. We were talking to distribution and manufacturing. And currently, most bids do not allow or address market conditions. So you want a year's worth of pricing from a manufacturer. Don't laugh yet, Lonnie. You want a year's worth of pricing from a manufacturer. It's going to get a price increase because the grain is going to go up, and whatever the case may be. What is that? I mean, they're talking about 6-month bids. What does that do? Give me your perspective. I understand wanting to hold the price for a year. I get it, but then help us understand.
Well, I've been
So I'm
talking.
gonna
I'm going to
jump
look to
in.
you first.
So here's what I'll say. And Lonnie started this conversation. She said, I want one product, commercial or commodity. We don't want to change chicken patties in November. We don't want to change burgers. We don't want to change anything midstream. So I would say that I don't want a 6-month bid. In fact, I don't even want a 1-year bid necessarily. I would be certainly, because I don't want to start changing products that frequently. You then get into your commodities. You've already diverted commodities in March for the year ahead. So
Right.
we're a year and a half out. So we would certainly be better able to handle adjustments in pricing. We all do it with our dairy, with our milk. It's based on, the Northeast price of milk. For some of us on our produce, our fresh fruits and vegetables that we get from them, we have adjustments that can be made in that. And so if need be, from our point of view, we would prefer, if we need a price adjustment, and we learned to put through more price adjustments through COVID than I ever saw.
Yeah,
Ever.
I'm sure.
Ever. In a year, in a week, we put that many through.
So I'm going to say this. You have to be a good customer to get good customer service. Let me be clear where I'm coming from, and I'm with you, Barbara. Okay, like you can't, if you want, first of all, I think you're biting your nose to spite your face. So if you think you're going to get pricing for a full solid year, what do you think? You as the manufacturer are going to hedge your bet. You know, you're going to, what's that? What I'm, you know, bet you're whatever you're, I'm saying, what I'm trying to say, you're going to figure it out, and you're going to charge me the highest price. Because if the prices go up, right, like I'm going to use produce, like in February, the cost of a case of a lettuce or strawberries is significantly different in my area than it is in August and September. And so if I ask my produce supplier to say, you give me a fixed price, they're going to base it on that February cost, not on that August, September cost. So there's a few ways to look at this. Do you do a cost plus, not percentage, because you can't do that, but a cost plus a delivery cost per case, so you can have that fluctuation. This is the conversation people need to have with their purchasing department. Okay, this is the conversation. You are not making this decision alone. I can say that with clarity. I would not make this decision alone. I have this conversation with my city procurement people to say what makes sense. Do you need when you look at the consumer price index, there's a lot of ways to address this. There's a million ways to address this, and your purchasing people in your district, city, whatever that is, there's somebody locally that has some thoughts on what needs to happen in your specific district. But I think when you talk about the changes, Robin, to think that anybody can give me a set price for a year without me paying higher prices throughout the year longer than I should is a thing of the past. That's what I believe. I need product. I need product to come in. I'm not as large as Barbara, but we are less than we were pre-COVID. Okay. But we're still 14,044 schools. It's a fair, I'm not looking for 2 cases. Right. I need 200 cases. Okay. And so, again, you need to be a good customer, and you truly will get good customer service, because I can go back to COVID when nobody could get burgers. I can tell you with clarity, I had burgers. Yeah. I had burgers. Okay. And so that's important.
Yeah.
I think the other thing in school districts is that we go to our school board usually in May or June, and we tell our school board, this is what we're going to charge for meals next year. This is our pricing. And so historically, we wanted to have our bids be over a year. We wanted to have all of that locked in. USDA is not going to change our reimbursement rate in January. No. Let's face it. So again, historically, we like to get all of that nailed down, locked in for the year. And then we could, with some degree of assurance, say, here's what our pricing will be for next year. Here's what we'll need to do.
Yeah, no, I get it. Carrie, guys, if you see me look down, I'm getting text messages, one right after the next. So Carrie, you've been seeing some questions. Before you go off with questions, tons and tons of congratulatory emails for you two beautiful women. We are so honored that you're on this call. Carrie, go ahead with your questions or whatever you saw.
Okay, yeah, and I am responding to some of them, asking for more details. So this was, Lonnie, you were talking about doing a single solicitation that captures all your commodities and your commercial and so forth. And there is an attendee wondering if you'd be willing to share that RFP, how you set that up, or maybe you can explain kind of your approach with that.
I can explain. I do have it, but again, truly, I'm literally walking out the door. So I have an Excel spreadsheet, okay, and it has tabs on it. So it has tabs for, and Robin knows, and she probably has access to it and can drop it somewhere. You probably drop it somewhere.
Asking.
Okay, and it's got the commercial products like my breakfast cereals and the crackers that we need. And then it's got the frozen bakery items. So the bagels, the muffins, our flatbread, all of that stuff, okay? But it also has tabs that we've color-coded so that and I'm talking an Excel spreadsheet. So you see one that says beef, poultry, cheese, okay, the USDA foods that we send for processing, there are tabs in that same Excel spreadsheet, okay, and we send it out to everybody. Our scope of services has a lot of detail about what's happening in that bid, that the regular gray tabs, our commercial items are going to go through distribution. I think it's blue for the fee for service, because we do have a warehouse and we're going to have some of that's spelled out clearly, okay? But in the tabs, for example, the beef, where we're going to send out beef for processing, the manufacturer is going to give us both a commodity price and a commercial price. There are two columns, you at commodity, commercial, okay? And so that's what we do. So I can look at both those prices right at the same time. And again, we've been blessed in Hartford to have enough entitlement and we've made decisions based upon our entitlement to say, we want the same burger for the whole year. So we make sure we divert enough pounds for the number of services we're going to have burgers on, for the number of portions that we need. So we look at, we're going to have burgers on because we have a cycle menu. So I know with a 4-week cycle menu, and burgers is on that menu once, I'm going to have burgers on 8 times for that year. I need 100 cases each time. There's 40 pounds each time I send a case, whatever those math is. That's literally what we do. Okay. And so then there's an NOI section. So each one of those tabs, and then we have our fresh bread on that. And that same Excel spreadsheet goes out to all of the bidders. And the people who are bidding on all of it, like my distributor bids on a lot of those tabs. And Robin's shaking her head. My people who are doing my poultry processing only bid on the poultry tab.
Right.
Okay. And we have language in our scope of services that said this bid is going to be awarded to multiple vendors. And there are both commercial and commodity USDA foods. I'm again, old school saying commodity, but USDA foods in the same bid. This allows me to do it all at once. And again, because I'm doing this in January or in February, right? You're awarding this somewhere in February, the very end of February, okay, for the following year. Are you kidding? Do you really think that in February you're going to give me the best price for June of 2024? I mean, that's a little crazy to think that so anyways, that's the process. But one spreadsheet has all of our items with all the information. I think it's a pretty good bid. I think it's a pretty good bid.
It is. And Barbara, what do you?
Every year, what we do so that everyone understands this, we've already saved it. So Robin, you saw the 23-24. We have already saved that as the 24-25 and started making notes on it. Take this off. Not sure. Highlighted what we need to go back next year and say, we're keeping this on the menu. We've already started that now. As soon as we award it, we save it for the next year. Because it's a living, breathing document.
It's a living document, yeah. Barbara, anything to add on that?
So our bids, we do them a little bit differently. We have most of our categories, all of our refrigerated, fresh and frozen, our center of the plate things, those would all be one bid. We have a couple of other things that are on a separate bid, and some of that is sort of serendipity, how it happened. We had one major cheese manufacturer that missed our bid one year. And so we had no cheese products. So we had to separate that out onto a separate bid for a while. Now, we then merged it back. When we were having problems getting craft paperboard to make trays, we could award everything else on our disposable bid, but we couldn't do that. So our trays ended up on a separate bid by itself. And we've kind of left it that way for a while. It's a little bit easier for us. That's the only thing that we have to worry about on that one bid. Some of our other things, our produce is an RFP. We don't do that as a bid. So, and we don't want that as a bid. And we may begin to look at some other things as RFPs. We've had great success with the RFP for our produce.
I only do an RFP. All of our stuff is RFP. We do a produce the same thing. It's all RFP for that because we have different needs. The delivery needs. There are things that just the bidding process, strict bidding is not always for us.
Right.
Has been the best. But we're with you, Barb. We have like a produce and all of that stuff.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so we're kind of to that time where I'm gonna say, we'll go to Barbara first. Barbara, since you are gonna retire and leave us, give us, 3 minutes, 5 minutes, give us 5 minutes of wisdom. I mean, there's so many different people on these calls, these Facebook Live. You've got the newbies, you've got the people that have been around that are maybe feeling burnt out. You have industry, you have, software companies. Leave us with your words of wisdom, and I'm going to write them down because I just love you two so much. So you go right ahead, and then Lonnie, you can follow, and then I'll wrap it all up. And no crying.
No tears, tears of joy only. So I think the one word of wisdom that I would have would be make friends. So I say this anytime I'm at ACDA, if I do any of the first timer sessions at ACDA or any of the RA sessions at ACDA, I always say to everybody, make friends. I always say, don't travel in a pack. Do not, if you, 4 or 5 of you go from one district, if you're lucky enough to get that many people at one conference, split up. You all have cell phones, communicate with each other about where you are. If this is a great session or you want to do that session, download the app so that you have access to the PowerPoints afterwards, because very often you'll think, oh, I'll remember that. I'll remember that. That's a great takeaway. That's what I'm going to take home this time. And so I have learned to take the app, use that app, download the PowerPoints, bring cards, again, make friends. That was how I met Lonnie. I met her at an ACDA, sat down and we chatted, and I have learned so much from her over the years. So I always try to sit next to someone I don't know, introduce myself, and again, make friends. I have never had anybody say, go away. Not lately. So I think that that's huge, but I also think developing that network of colleagues around the country, if you want to know what's going on or what you can do, I saw somebody's menus from St. Paul and I thought, wow.
Yeah.
You reach out to St. Paul and find out what she's doing. And of course, she'll answer you.
Yeah. No, I agree. That's one thing, having a national job. I say this often, the menu over here is completely different than the menu over here, than here. It just amazes me what you food service directors can do and come up with, and your ideas and just the sharing is so incredibly important. I know it sounds going to sound weird, but I look at Facebook every day, in the morning and at night. I look at Facebook and I see so many questions. What does your bulletin boards look like? What does your menus look like? Share that information. I'm not allowed to go. I can say things, but I'm not supposed to go on there and say anything because I am in sales. But sometimes I just offer up, try, whatever. But I just think that the networking and the sharing of information is so, I have met some of the most wonderful people in this industry. 2, 3 of you are right here in front of me right now. So, okay, Lonnie, what do you got?
Well, I'm going to agree with everything that Barbara said, because it's true. That's how we met, and that is how you learn. But I would say the most important thing is, please don't lose sight of your North Star. And the North Star is the students that you're feeding. Please don't lose sight of that. And it's so easy to get sucked into the operational side of what we do, that you lose sight of what you are doing. And what you're doing is feeding children and hopefully making a difference. And I couldn't have, I will start crying when I tell you this story, but I talked to a principal that worked in Hartford with me for the 20 years that I was in Hartford. And so I said to her, I hope I've made a difference, and she said to me, Lonnie, I know you've made a difference because I've been here longer than you. And you know why I know what you've made a difference is because when I look at the students' skin and their hair and their fingernails and their eyes, they're healthier today than they were 20 years ago.
Wow.
I'm going to start really, Barbara, please don't lose sight of what we're doing.
Yeah.
And all of the changes, and it is going to change. And this is a hard industry, but that's the beauty of it. I've never been bored. So I've loved what we do, but what we do is feed children. And I think it's important to have a peripheral vision and not only look at the operations, because sometimes I'm asking my staff to do more because it's the right thing to do, not the easiest thing to do. Right. And so I think it's important to not lose sight of that. I've been blessed, and this has been a most incredible industry to work in. And I hope that everyone gets that passion. See, oh my God. But it's true, right?
The passion. If we could just all have as we said earlier, the fire in our belly to continue to do what we do and feed the children. I remember a very avid story that back, and this really is going to date me, but when we started the fresh fruit and vegetable program, okay, and I was in a kitchen in Richmond. I'll never forget this as long as I live. And they were putting blueberries in the little cups to serve and let the students taste the blueberries before they had their lunch. And they gave them a peach. And this one child took the peach and rubbed it on his face. And he says, it's so soft. It has fur. I just will never, that child had never been exposed to a peach. I came home and told my husband, I'm like, you're not going to believe it. You know, it's just the reality of what we deal with every day, and we need to stay engaged. And it's not easy. It's not always fun. I mean, we have fun, but we have got to keep this going, because who's going to feed our kids? I have 5 grandchildren. I don't know about anybody else on this call, but I got 5 babies that are getting ready to start school in a week. You know, it's like they're going to come up and eat in school food service, and you want them to have the experience that you've given your students.
Absolutely.
So, Carrie, are there any other questions? I know there was a ton out there. Is there anything else that you have? You want to add anything?
Right? No, I have to get my camera to work properly. No, I'm just seeing some nice comments come through. Just thank you. And we're all together on a common mission. So no other questions.
Good. Well, Lonnie and Barbara. Enjoy your retirement.
Robin Bowman, no crying. There's no crying in child nutrition.
Yeah, but you're going. I'm staying without y'all. So enjoy.
You're gonna carry it on.
Oh,
Robin.
I'm gonna try.
You're
I got
going
some
to
good help.
push
I
it
got Carrie,
forward.
and I got Carol, and I got Jose, and I have all these people that we all care so much. We will miss you. We are so honored that you took the time to be on this call. Thank you.
Loved every minute.
It was a lot of fun.